Ambassador Eitan, thank you for being with us. So 2.5 years into the signing of the Abraham Accords, talk us through your main goals as the Israeli ambassador to Bahrain.
First of all, indeed 2.5 years of a lot of action. We are really moving here to realize the vision of and the dream of having full diplomatic relationships between Israel and two Gulf states, Bahrain, of course, here. The challenge is to build relationships, to kind of make people connect, make the countries connect, make the leaders connect, make our economies connect. And I think that this is what we are now trying to do, to realize the vision.
And what would you count as a success in improving the ties between Israelis and Bahraini people?
One of the things that I consider as a success was 15 people, young people, that we sent from Bahrain for the first time to Israel. First time it was their first visit, a week-long visit to Israel, where we really, I think, broke all the perceptions that they had and the stereotypes, and to see Israel in their eyes, to see how excited they were when people thanked them for coming, how excited they were for people thanking them for visiting Yad Vashem. To see them understand Israel in a very different way than what they were taught, what they thought, and what they perceived before arriving to Israel.
Yes, and having said all of that, clearly there are some major obstacles and challenges right now in achieving those goals in Bahrain. Talk to us about those difficulties.
The challenges are not challenges that haven't met before. When you build relationship with countries, when you start from almost zero, not zero, but almost, and you have to build it from really from the bottom floor up, to create those people-to-people connections, to build economic and trade relationships, to bring people together, to set up everything really from almost the beginning. I think these are the main challenges, the main difficulties. It takes time to focus people. People have many challenges. Mine is one, Israel, Bahrain. And I think this is where we are at, connecting the economies, bringing business people here, sending people to Israel, understanding the common denominators, the common things that we have, and also the differences.
And we know, of course, of the opposition to the relations in Bahrain, and some surveys also signal to a decrease in the general support. So what are the reasons for that?
I think that what people translate as a decrease in support is actually translation of of the opposite. We increased our profile here. We do more things. We've seen more visits. The Prime Minister was here in February. The President was here in last December. We had ministers visiting. We have Bahraini ministers visiting Israel. We have a big business delegation that was, in fact, in my opinion, a turning point in the economic relationship between two countries. People's eyes were opened. We do more events here. We celebrated here the first Independence Day in the Gulf. We will celebrate soon the second, the 75th Independence Day of the State of Israel. So they see us more here. And when they see us more here, there is more vocal opposition by those who oppose anything that either this government does here in Bahrain, the Bahraini government, or to relationships with Israel. So not necessarily more voices against is less support for Israel. It's simply, for me, a sign that we are simply doing more and raise more concern by those who anyway opposed the process from the beginning.
And as we said, 2.5 years after their signing, and we know at least the Israeli Prime Minister is very eager to expand these accords. Also, we heard from Foreign Minister Eli Cohen. What do you think of the chances of expanding them to other countries, and which states do you see as possible targets?
I can tell you this, there are expanding relationships. I see more Israeli businessmen and women meeting also here in Bahrain counterparts from other countries in the Gulf. Some of those meetings happen here in Bahrain. Some of it is happening in other countries, including whether it's in the UAE or in Saudi. Some of it was published, some of it was not. I don't know which country will be the first one to announce publicly of full diplomatic relationships with Israel, but I can tell you that there are ongoing relationships and that they are growing. It's really a process, and it's not a process that will happen within one day. The Abraham Accords came as a surprise, but it was a process as well.
Yes, and you mentioned Saudi Arabia. This is obviously Israel's main goal in the region when it comes to normalization. What would it take to advance those ties specifically with Riyadh?
You have to ask the Saudis. I think that the Prime Minister of Israel, the Foreign Minister, every Israeli leader has expressed strong will by Israel to have full diplomatic relationships with Saudi. I'm looking at it from a different angle. I don't know when we'll have the full diplomatic relationships with Saudi, but I know that when we want to build it based on our experience here in the Gulf already, with the UAE and with Bahrain, it will be at the end of the day the people, the professionals, the business people. They will create the support, they will create the infrastructure, the incentive to have full diplomatic relationships.
And obviously there is another side to this triangle, that is the US, who of course was very dominant in the signing of the accords back in 2020 under the Trump administration. What sort of involvement do you see these days coming out of Washington as Israel tries to expand these accords further?
I can only tell you what I see here in Bahrain. What I see in Bahrain is a lot of cooperation between us and the American embassy. When we marked the second anniversary for the Abraham Accords, we all planted a tree, an olive tree, at the garden of the American embassy. It was the foreign minister here, the American ambassador, and myself. I think that was a very nice gesture. We have daily contacts with the American embassy. Delegations that come here talk to us, talk to the Americans, trade delegations, economic cooperation. We are looking into investments. Some of the money comes from the US and Israel. So there's a lot of joint economic activity, or beginning to talk about a joint economic activity, US, Israel, Bahrain, other countries as well. So this is what I see from here, and this is what I'm in charge of here.
And another element in the relations between Israel and Bahrain is, of course, security ties. Both countries have common goals and common enemies. What can Israel do for Bahrain in that sense?
And vice versa, what Bahrain can do for Israel. That's another, the other side of the coin. I think that there's no secret that we all face the same challenge. I don't think it's a secret that Iran is posing a threat, not just to Israel, not just in the Middle East now. We've seen it spilling over to Europe. We are seeing what they're doing in the Ukraine. We're seeing now the Europeans worried. It's on the doorsteps. So I think today there is hardly any doubt or an argument that the Iranians pose a security threat to this region, to the wider region, and way beyond the borders of the Middle East. And I think that, of course, it's only natural that countries talk with each other, countries seek ways to mitigate these risks, to reduce it. And if we can do anything to help within our capabilities, we'll certainly try and do it.
And should Israel one day like to strike Iran's nuclear facilities, using Bahrain as a base could be very beneficial. What do officials here say to that option?
What do I say to that? Highly hypothetical, and I can certainly not answer such a hypothetical question. What we want to do is to have good relationships with Bahrain. And I think that people shouldn't undermine the keen interest of both countries to have bilateral interests.
And of course, as we speak and sit down here, the situation between Israel and the Palestinians is highly volatile. We see so much violence, attacks on Israelis, a lot of Palestinians killed as well. What do the Bahrainis say to you? What is their stance on the situation between Israel and the Palestinians right now?
There's no secret, of course, that there is tension, that the situation now is tense. I think that the whole idea of the Abraham Accords was to basically create an environment, an atmosphere that is conducive to peace. I see recently some closer relationships between the Palestinians and Bahrain, and I think it's good. I think that what Bahrain gained, one of the things that Bahrain gained by talking both to the Israelis and the Palestinians, is our attention and the Palestinian attention. And maybe the Palestinians will learn from the Bahraini experience and, of course, the UAE's experience, that maybe talking is better than anything else, that there is much more to gain by doing that. So hopefully the Bahrainis and the UAE will lead by example.
Ambassador Eitan, we thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.